Well, Victoria's Parliament has erupted during question time as the Premier deflects claims government MPs directed auditors to dig up dirt on the state's anti-corruption watchdog. The Premier refused to take or read a letter from the IBAC Commissioner as he withstands calls for a judicial inquiry. Victorian political reporter Simon Love is following developments. Simon, talk us through what sounds like a dramatic day in Parliament.
Oh, it's been absolutely dramatic, Andrew. This revelation that the IBAC Commissioner here in Victoria, the then IBAC Commissioner Robert Redlich, had written a letter critical of Parliament's Integrity and Oversight Committee and moves from the Audit Subcommittee to direct auditors to try and dig up dirt on IBAC and try and seek to paint IBAC in a negative light. Well, around about an hour ago, Question Time was here in Parliament. John Pesutto tried to hand and table that letter from Robert Redlich that was leaked and published by the Herald Sun, tried to hand it to Daniel Andrews after he said this morning that he hadn't even read the letter and he wouldn't be responding to this letter. Take a listen to this exchange in Question Time.
Corrupt union grants. Given the government's efforts to undermine and weaken IBAC, why shouldn't Victorians conclude that corruption within the Andrews government is real?
Because it isn't.
Who instructed government members of the IOC to direct auditors to find dirt on IBAC?
You've never answered one, and by the looks of the people behind you, they know you never will.
So Daniel Andrews taking aim at John Pesutto for never being able to sit in the Premier's seat. But ultimately, John Pesutto then used his next question to try and go after the Premier on whether a judicial inquiry would be called. I've just spoken to a very leading King's Counsel in this town from Transparency Australia, Stephen Charles. He says this letter from Robert Redlich justifies a judicial inquiry. So the question was put in Parliament.
Will the Premier support a judicial inquiry with the coercive powers of a royal commission?
No, it's what he'd want to have happened, and you are wrong. You are wrong.
Order.
All right, Simon, a fairly rowdy question time there. Talk us through how the Premier danced around receiving this letter.
Oh, he certainly danced around in not trying to take that letter off the table, but he was also dancing and responding and trying to impersonate John Pesutto when he was asking his next questions. I know you're a big fan of watching Question Time, but take a look at this reaction from Daniel Andrews when John Pesutto was trying to go after him on his Minister Assistant Treasurer Danny Pearson after he apologised and then placed his shareholdings into a blind trust. It harks back to what happened in New South Wales with Damien Tudhope resigning, but Danny Pearson is holding firm.
For holding Commonwealth Bank shares whilst authorising 3 new government bank accounts with the Commonwealth Bank and overseeing a crisis in WorkSafe that will now see workers lose benefit and employers pay more premiums. Minister, will you finally show some integrity?
You will all be ejected if you speak or move or so much as twitch while I'm on my feet.
There's the Speaker, Marie Edwards there. That's a definite highlight, no doubt, of this week's Question Time performances, Andrew.
Thanks very much, Simon.